Hi, and thank you for joining us for Write, our little presentation on writing as a process and a product. We are presenting from the Writing Center Tutoring Services at Illinois Wesleyan in spring 2022, and my name is Professor Scanlon. I am the director of the WCTS. Today, we're going to cover advice for a stronger writing process, tips for a stronger written product, and campus and off-campus resources for additional support as you begin your writing journey. So our advice for a stronger writing process is centered around demystifying the process of writing. So it's not one students dread and put off to the last minute, but rather one which is part of the learning process, more generally speaking, and one which will hopefully serve you for the rest of your academic and professional careers. So our first tip is don't delay, start today. I know it's easy to procrastinate. I am guilty of it myself, but even if you can just jot down a few ideas, every bit of time you spend writing now means less time you'll have to spend writing later. We also have resources on our website under the student and faculty resources section about avoiding procrastination. So if you're somebody who feels yourself procrastinating readily, check out those resources, and even better, meet with our student success tutors today to get additional support to avoid procrastinating. Our second tip is to find a space that works for you. Productivity increases when you can be comfortable while you write. This point also holds true for studying, reading, and really just about anything else. But if you can be comfortable while you're doing it, you're going to be that much better off. Pictured on the right of the slide is Ames Library's East Side, which has been newly remodeled. We have some of our little stadium seating in gray and green there. We have our booth seating, circular and just straight on booths. We also have video screens and whiteboards available for use. At the far back over by those bookcases, all the way to the right of the screen is where the WCTS is located. So if you decide to have an in-person appointment, you know where you're going. So step 3 is to get comfortable learning your writing style. And pardon me while I minimize myself here for a minute. There are several different writing styles. These are not the only ones, but these are the ones that are seen most common, especially at the writing level y'all are at as college students. First is the word dumper. This person starts off just writing to get all the words out. Maybe they write by hand, maybe they type, but either way, they're just getting a bunch of ideas out. Next is the outliner. They plot out what they're going to write. They really sit down and think about it, maybe even have some of their resources already and really kind of just lay out one by one what they're going to write. A reverse outliner is a little bit of a mix of the first two. They word dump and then they outline to see where there are gaps in their writing. And we have handouts, by the way, on outlining and reverse outlining on our website as well. Last but not least is the edit as you go. This is a person who edits while they're writing their ideas down. So they're sort of switching between the writing brain and the editing brain. There are pros to each. For word dumpers, they're less likely to lose track of their ideas. For outliners, they're going to have an organized flow. For reverse outliners, they're going to catch some of the organization issues. And for edit as you go, you're going to limit spelling and punctuation issues. But there are also cons to each. For word dumpers, you're going to have to go back and edit and reorganize carefully. For outliners, it's going to feel formulaic sometimes for your paper, or it's going to be hard for you to go, quote, off outline. For reverse outliners, you might end up having to do a bit more work because you sort of have to go back and outline after. And for edit as you go, you can get caught up in smaller concerns instead of focusing on content, and that can really inhibit your meaning in your paper. But all of these have their benefits, so don't feel bad if you're one of them, and come to the Writing Center and we'll talk you through how to even develop that skill, that process further. Also note that depending on the assignment, you may change between several of these styles, pardon me. And you may switch between them even in one assignment. So don't worry, all of them are valuable writing processes and we're here to help you through them. You also want to make sure to pace yourself. And this kind of goes back to the first one about don't delay, start today. You don't want to rush the process. You want to give yourself time to write, edit, and take breaks. So we have a little timeline here that we can show you that gives you a little bit more ideas about that. We recommend that you begin at least a week before your paper is due, more if you're a slower writer or if it's over 4 pages. That first day, you should jot down ideas, create an outline, go to the Writing Center to brainstorm, kind of get your feel for what you want to do with the paper. Your second day, you should start to try and fill out your ideas. What resources do you need? What evidence should you gather? Your third day, and that's when you should, by the way, gather the resource and evidence. Your third day, you should create a draft with your claims and the evidence you've gathered. If you have time and the inclination, you should draft a conclusion and an introduction as well. Day 5, you should really put your paper away for a day. It's hard to constantly be looking at the same piece of writing. You have to take steps back from it. So we recommend about midway through the process, you do that. Day 6, you should edit your draft by reading it out loud. You'll hear more mistakes than you'll see on the page. You'll be able to ask yourself the following: do I need to incorporate more sources? Do I need to analyze more deeply? Is my evidence strong enough? And then you can make changes accordingly. Lastly, day 7, you can do an additional edit, get as nitpicky as possible, and remember to run spell check in Word, not Google Docs. At any point in this process, you can visit our Writing Center tutors, and they are going to be more than happy to help you. Our last tip for a good writing process is to read the prompt carefully. This is really one of the first things you should do, but it is also one of the most important. You should make sure you understand what your professor is asking you to do before you start any writing assignment. Because if you start the writing assignment and find out you're not actually doing what your professor wants, you're going to have to start all over again. And who has that kind of time? On the flip side, we want to also share some advice for a stronger writing product. So now that you've got your process down and you know what you're going to do to create this piece of writing, we want to talk about some steps you can take along the way as the writing piece unfolds. I want to make it, I want to make it very clear that the Writing Center tutors are not in the process of giving a grade. They are not in that business. They will not guarantee a grade on your paper, so don't even bother asking them. They're not allowed to tell you anyway. But they do know a lot of tips that are going to get you on the right track to the grade you deserve. So firstly, you should choose your resources wisely. It's key not to just choose the first resources that show up in the database or the catalog search at Ames Library. You really want to look at the abstracts and keywords to make sure that these resources actually work for your paper, so you're not just cherry picking data points or evidence. You want to learn how to incorporate evidence properly too, and we have a handout on this as well. Does your professor want quotes? Do they expect you to use outside sources? How do they feel about paraphrasing? You should find out when they pass out the prompt. These are great questions to ask your professor. And then once you know, you can begin the process of incorporating evidence successfully. We have 2 different handouts on this on our resources page. Sorry, it went too fast for you. Next, you should get a citation guide handy. I always tell students, I literally just told my class this the other day, when in doubt, cite it out. If I'd rather see a couple too many citations than not enough. And the more comfortable and more familiar you get with the citation guides, all of which are available at Ames Library, the more capable you'll become as a writer with a more polished product. You should focus on mechanics last. We call these lower order concerns in W Center and Writing Center lingo. They're the things that you still lose points for, but they aren't as key to focus on as the higher order concerns. So you may have seen this sign around the Writing Center or on our Writing Center website or our social media. Follow us at IWUWC. But this is sort of how we train our tutors to break down when they look at a paper. First, and this is standard across Writing Centers. This is not something we came up with. Writing Center scholarship is pretty confident this is the way to go. First, you look with your student at higher order concerns, or HOCs. We focus on things which impede the overall meaning of a text. So the focus of the work, the evidence used ethically to support that focus, claims or arguments being made, and organization of idea. Then we move into regional concerns. Sometimes they're also called local concerns, but that can get confusing because the last thing is called LOCs and just a lot of L's there. Here we primarily address our analysis of a writer's work to those issues which might impede local flow of a written work. So things like paragraph structure, including transitions between ideas, introductions, and conclusions. Some people lump regional and higher order concerns together just as a point of interest. Lastly, are our LOCs, or lower order concerns. These are concerns we get to if there's time during an appointment. Otherwise, we try to invite the student back to work on them in a subsequent appointment. These concerns deal with those things which are rarely impede meaning and are more proofreading based: punctuation, grammar, typographical errors, and citation details, for example. Lastly, you should go to the Writing Center and librarians. Our Writing Center can help you with starting, editing, or polishing an essay. They love to brainstorm. They can help you with creating outlines. They can help you with creating reverse outlines. Our Writing Center tutors also love to look at personal and academic writing. So personal statements, creative writing that you're doing for fun, anything that you're writing maybe for the Argus or something like that. And our Writing Center tutors love to give guidance on genre expectations. They're well-versed and they come from a variety of majors, so they know about writing in a variety of disciplines. They also do a lot more, so please check them out. Our librarians, on the flip side, can help with research in your specific major or in the specific discipline of your class. They also offer citation support, which I don't think they get enough credit for doing. And additionally, they create these wonderful course guides for all of the different courses on campus that request it. So many courses are up there. And even if it's not your specific course, there's still going to be lots of relevant material in there. And they do a lot more too. So you really should, if you are having, if you have the desire to create a beautiful piece of writing, you really should use both the Writing Center and our amazing librarians. We do have a couple additional resources that I want to shout out in a little bit more detail. First is the Writing Center tutoring services, because we also have course embedded tutors. These are tutors connected to specific courses and professors. We also have our student success tutors, which will help you on presentations. They'll help you avoid procrastination. They'll help you with time management skills, test taking anxiety, note taking, study skills, all of it. And our Writing Center tutors that I already covered. Then we have the Ames Library, which not only is a wonderful study and writing space, as I already mentioned, but it's also got tons of resources you can borrow, including popular fiction and nonfiction. They have amazing databases as well for your resources. And of course, as already mentioned, our wonderful librarians. Next, you should check out your professor and TA for additional support. Go to office hours and ask them to look at drafts. Read their comments carefully that they put on your drafts and then incorporate them. Lastly, we want to recommend the Pomodoro technique. It's one of our favorites here. The Pomodoro timer in particular is one that you can find online. It's the first result if you Google Pomodoro timer, but it essentially times your breaks and writing activity or studying or note-taking or any other thing that you might be doing, activities, to sort of give you well-timed and well-used breaks. So we recommend all of these resources. Thank you so much for listening to us today. If you have questions, feel free to email me, Professor Scanlon, ascanlon@iwu.edu. And again, remember, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We post tips all the time. We post little tricks and ideas, and we also post a lot of reading recs. This month with Black History Month, we're focusing specifically on Black authors and writers. So there's some really cool things out there, and they're all available through Ames Library. So any rec we make, you should be able to check out. Thanks so much.